This is a very high-stakes primary that we'll be talking about for years to come, not only because of the delays, but also the pending changes to the makeup of the city government. As we mentioned, the results are still coming in and will surely catch the attention of the White House. Let's listen in right now. One of the mayoral candidates, Janice Lewis-George, is speaking at her election headquarters at the Howard Theater.
We are nurses, healthcare workers, and physicians. We are restaurant workers, janitors, and domestic workers. We are grocery workers, hotel housekeepers, and transit workers. We are construction workers, laborers, electricians, and carpenters. And we are delivery drivers, postal workers, and firefighters. And we are city workers, non-profit staff, and proud federal workers. And together, we are DC. All of us united for a common cause. Thank you to every organization that joined this movement to win back power for working families in D.C.
There you have it again. Let's run through some numbers right now. With the vote count coming in about 66%, according to the NBC decision desk. Janice Lewis-George with 53%, Kenyon McDuffie at 37%. Again, with this ranked choice voting, folks, you've got to remember all you need is 50% plus one.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the other information we have coming in right now.
Yeah.
Okay, before we talk about some of the other races, let's bring in News 4's Mark Seagraves. Mark, you've been covering this. I know you got to hear a little bit of what Janice Lewis-George said. Earlier, we heard from her main competitor, Kenyon McDuffie. Do you want to compare kind of what we've heard so far?
So first, I just want to caution us. These results are not final, right? And we're really only looking at, right now, according to the Board of Elections website, only 51% of the in-person votes have been counted, 48% of the mail-in votes. So we have a long way to go. We haven't declared a winner. Nobody is declaring victory yet. I will say,
she's sounding like she is.
This is the difference between the two speeches that we heard. As we said before, Kenyon McDuffie's speech sounded very much like a stump speech.
It did.
It was his stump speech, talking about being a mailman, Howard University, 13 years on the council. If you want, let's take a little listen as to what Kenyon McDuffie said about an hour and a half ago.
The votes are being counted, and ranked choice votes and ballots are being tabulated as we speak. The reality is it's going to be a while before we know the results of this election. And I think you all know that I am a son of this city. I think you all know I grew up here in a neighborhood called Stronghold. I think you all know it didn't always work well for me, and I had to struggle a little bit. I had to find my way. And I finally got an opportunity when I got that offer of employment from the United States Postal Service. Y'all know I delivered for this city, literally delivered mail. I went to schools here, graduated from Woodrow Wilson, now Jackson Reed. I went to the University District of Columbia and I graduated from Howard University. The district deserves a mayor who's gonna fight and deliver for all DC. We need a mayor who's going to fight to keep our city safe, a mayor who's going to make sure that our kids have real access to opportunity, a mayor who's going to protect our right to govern ourselves, and a mayor who's going to fight back against the interference by Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress, and I'm going to be that mayor. And as the votes are being counted tonight, we respect this process. We respect this process, and we are going to see it through all the way to the end.
Okay, Kenyon McDuffie there, as you pointed out, Mark, sounded like a stump speech. That was before any votes had come in. Polls were still open, people still standing in line. Let's shift to another race that we've been watching very closely for weeks and weeks, and that is Robert White and Brooke Pinto. We have these numbers coming in for D.C. delegates.
Right now you can see Robert White 63% to Brooke Pinto's 22%. Mark, you talked about this. This is a seat that Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton held for 35 years. What's your take so far as we're starting to see these early numbers trickle in?
This is surprising, the spread, the difference in this to me, only because of the enormous amount of money that Brooke Pinto spent in this election, more than has ever been spent on this seat in the history of D.C. elections. And so to have that large a gap was really, really surprising. But again, I just want to temper everybody. These are very preliminary results.
Let's listen in. These are live pictures from Robert White with his supporters.
Okay, he is there at his campaign headquarters talking to his supporters right now. We will take a listen to what he's saying, and we will certainly bring that to you a little bit later. But Mark, you were saying this was maybe a surprise just because the enormous amount of money that Brooke Pinto spent.
You know, White's been ahead in the polls on this, but this is a big gap. Again, only about half of the early voting and today's voting have been counted. Still thousands of mail-in ballots to come in over the next couple of days. We are far from declaring winners in any of these races, but if you are Robert White, you're feeling pretty good about yourself with those early results, as is Janice Lewis George, who sounded much more like a victory speech, even though she didn't declare victory. She talked about making history. So she was very much in that mode, in a celebratory mode. So we'll just have to keep our eyes on these results. Board of Elections tells me that they will stay at it all night until they get this first round of votes tabulated and posted online.
Okay. And we heard chants of people power. She ran through the litany of her base, her strong support, and where it came from. Let's move on to some other races now that are happening tonight. There's not one but two at-large council seats on the ballot following the retirement of Democratic at-large council member Anita Bonds and the resignation of independent at-large council member who's now running for mayor, Kenyon McDuffie.
Yeah, there are 9 candidates right now who are vying for Anita Bonds seats. Here's a look at the numbers right now with the votes that have been counted right now. You can see that the winner right there is Oyeyoluela.
Right. So he has a commanding lead right now. Again, this is something, he's only got 34%. So this is something that we can see right now
going to another round.
Is definitely going to go to a round of tabulation. It would appear, if these results hold up throughout the night, because nobody in that race is close to getting 50% yet. But he certainly has a lead that should make him feel good. And this one, Alyssa Silverman, the former council member who lost her seat to Kenyon McDuffie, and has been wanting to get back on the council. Again, a very commanding lead. Donnie Crawford is the incumbent, even though she's only been there a few months. She was appointed by the D.C. Council when Kenyon McDuffie resigned, so she is a council member running as an incumbent. Jack Patterson, a very well-known name in local politics. He's been around for a very long time. But if you're Alyssa Silverman, you got to be feeling very good about your chances right now that she has such a commanding lead, particularly when the fact that Donnie Crawford is a council member, is technically the incumbent in that seat.
Are you seeing a trend here with again, early votes that this is taking a more progressive lean?
Certainly with the numbers that Alyssa Silverman is getting. No one can say that she's not a very progressive candidate as an independent. And then Janice Lewis George as well. And so, you know, if this is how tonight goes, and we talked about this earlier, the idea that you would get Janice Lewis George, Alyssa Silverman, you know, you get these progressives. It's a real shift in the ideology of an already liberal D.C. council. What we're going to see here, again, if we end up with special elections, if Robert White holds on and he wins, if Janice Lewis George holds on and she wins, that's 2 special elections for the D.C. Council we'll have sometime probably next year after they have to resign. You have the unions who have kind of figured it out, right? How they get their people in there. You could see even more progressive socialists get elected to those seats. And then you've got Trayon White's seat might come up if she is convicted in his primary trial. And we could see a real shift, not just in the faces, but also in the ideology of those representing the city. Yeah.
All right.